We are back talking about criminal justice issues and much more with Rasheedat Fetuga from Gideon's Army. I said I was going to play devil's advocate, and something we were just talking about in the break is the importance of, and I think more people are learning this, of just not being afraid to ask questions. Ask the questions and try to learn about other people's experiences. It's as simple as that. As devil's advocate,
okay,
people, what would you say to people who say, well, African Americans in North Nashville just don't want to take responsibility for the plight, for their situation? They're always trying to dish it off, and there's plenty out there. Now, obviously, I know we're learning so much more, and I want to get into the whole, Interstate 40 and how people knew, but other people didn't even think about how it just split the community, and the history and the cultural importance of Jefferson Street. And we're learning this now, and it's coming to the forefront. But I have heard people say to me, well, there have been plenty of other minorities who've come to this country in the last 20, 30 years, and they're owning businesses, and they're doing fine, and they're not getting any government assistance, and why does this persist? What do you say? And we really want to dive deep into the systemic issues, like you said, the criminal justice issues, and that's been plaguing the communities for years.
I would say that they're either bigoted, racist, or ill-informed, one of the three.
Or all of the above.
Or all of the above. And then I would say that there needs to stop being a stigma on people who receive public assistance, because actually it oftentimes is more rural white people who are on public assistance than there are black people who are in public housing. And more than that are the corporations that get government assistance. It doesn't look like food stamps or welfare benefits, but corporations often get more government assistance than any of us, and they're not the ones who need it. And so I would say that
but why that stigma? Why is that stuck? Why, can't we break through that? I mean, obviously it's going to take more of you appearing on programs and us having these discussions and trying to educate people so that they're a little more aware. Or I tell people, volunteer, step up, and get into these communities all over the city through Hands on Nashville, which I know you guys know well. Get out there and help out, and you'll learn a lot. You'll see a lot and learn a lot, and you'll feel good about. You'll understand a little bit more, I think.
We might not want those people in our communities coming to help out, but if you're willing to come and learn, that's another thing.
Yes,
but
with an open heart.
You got to be anti-racist, because we don't really have time for just more harm in our communities. It's been enough. America's been very intentional about how black people are perceived, from postcards with extremely dark children eating watermelon, or white folks used to feed children to alligators, black children to alligators. Black life has never mattered in this country outside of what black bodies can do, whether it be labor or reproduction, as in breeding during slavery, and so anything outside of that, it really hasn't mattered. And so for people to say that black people are lazy and don't want anything, when it has been free black labor to build this country, free black labor against their wills. My 5-time great-grandmother, her name was Temperance, and she was raped by the man who owned her, and I am an offspring of that. I am a product of that. I live with that when I look at myself, because I have pictures. So I don't know what she looks like, but I do know what the offspring, the children of the man who owned her, I do know what they look like. And I see myself in them. I live with that every day, every time I look in the mirror. And so people in North Nashville, which Gideon's Army has really shown, like when people have the opportunities, they jump on it. They absolutely jump on it. We've been able to help people, connect them to jobs, And with job support, folks get their jobs, they keep their jobs, but that's not enough. We need what Jamel Gooch is working on, which is universal basic income, where money, unrestricted, is put in the hands of the people. You all interviewed someone from the Brookings Institute, I believe it was yesterday, and one thing that they found is the only way to really repair the harm from breaking through Interstate 40, taking people's homes, using eminent domain, shutting down businesses, is reparations, putting money back into the hands of people who have been impacted by the racist structures.
Because, you know, after the civil rights movement, a lot of people said they're okay, everything's fine. And obviously, that wasn't the case.
It's not the case. And black people have faced so many more things than other immigrant groups, you know. And so it's like comparing apples and oranges.
Absolutely.
And I usually don't really engage in those conversations because I'm focused on the work. I'm focused on transforming these communities, and those who believe can come right along with us, and those who don't can get left behind. And that's just the way that I function. That's the way the Gideon's Army functions.
You think, you're so passionate, do you think that it just keeps growing, your passion? I mean, 10 years into it, and some people may be frustrated or whatever, but you, I can tell you just are, you're looking at tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day.
My why is stronger than anything that can trample me. My why is stronger. Lamar Hughes was my baby. Tevin Scruggs was my baby. Mikhail Shakir, like, these are my children. I lost my children. And I am not gonna stop until Nashville gets some act right, as my granny used to say. And we become the city, the best city that we can be. And I know that there are more people. I was just
going to ask you this. Yeah.
There are more who want the best for this city. There are more people who support the work of Gideon's Army and what we believe in than there are people who are against it. And so I know, especially because 10 years isn't a long time, but it's long enough to see patterns.
Yeah.
It's long enough to go through several mayors and several school superintendents and principals, and, you know, we just continue to move in the direction of restorative justice, investing in communities, and the people on the ground, the people who are on the ground, because I do not work alone. Even aside from our staff, you know, the community partners that we have, the grassroots people, the community members, like, they are equally as committed as I am. And they are not going to stop until Nashville is the absolute best that it can be.
Nashville is a great community thanks to a lot of folks, including one of our regulars. I am pleased to welcome Reverend Enoch Fuzz.
Uh-oh, hey.
Reverend Fuzz, how are you, sir?
Hey. Hey, Rasheedat.
Hey, Reverend.
How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing better.
You feeling okay? Yeah?
I'm feeling a whole lot better. I'm coming back. I saw Rasheedat a few weeks ago, but everybody will see her around in the community. I have to be proud of her. I got a couple of tough questions. I want you to be truthful, Rasheedat.
Okay, fire away.
Okay. We got a new police chief, and in my circles, you know, he gets these high praises, but I know you'll tell the truth. What do you think about the new police chief? What things do you know, he's got his proposals. What would you propose for police? And then I want to throw this in here. Bordeaux, they call it District 1 Council District.
Yep.
Rhori, that's the most educated community in Nashville. Probably it's one of the most educated communities in the nation. Y'all do some polling on that. I know those people out there. They're school teachers. They're educated. Rasheedat's out there. They're educated, aren't they? They're highly educated people in Bordeaux. They work for Metro government. They don't make a lot of money.
Right.
They bought their homes out there. These are hard-working people taking these labels. But get back to my question. Tell us about the new police chief and maybe some thoughts on on that case that went down in Nashville,
Yep.
that policeman,
Yep.
Delke and Hambrick family. What do you think, Rasheedat?
All right, Reverend Fuzz, thank you. Put you on hold so we can listen in. I just heard you take a deep breath there. So he asked questions that I had on my list here, so this is perfect transition. Chief Drake.
Chief Drake. Chief Drake will be successful when he works himself out of a job. And that is my opinion of Chief Drake. If he is committed to working himself out of a job and making sure that Nashville is not heavily dependent on policing, that we have mental health first responders, that we use harm reduction strategies and we decriminalize drugs and even non-violent offenses, you know, Chief Drake is definitely more easily accessible than Chief Anderson was. However, this question is really hard for me to answer because it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter who the police chief is because he's still a part of a system that was born out of slavery and slave patrols. And so how do you reform slavery? You can't do that. You have to abolish it. You have to abolish it. And that is the way that I understand policing to be, is that historically it is an extension of slave patrols. And so as long as you continue to participate in these systems, it doesn't really matter how good you are, how good you try to be, you are still a participant in something that continues to cause harm to communities. And so I would say Chief Drake needs to work himself out of a job in order to be successful.
Community Oversight Board, body cams. These now some mental health experts going out on patrol. These have been changes. Do you see that as some progress?
Well, okay, so we had, I want to say 5 police-involved shootings in 2.5 months.
Okay.
Reform did not save those people's lives.
Right.
And that is what I have to say.
Yeah.
That still heavily, disproportionately black people. There were two people with very clear and definite mental health issues. And then when shootings happen, the James Smallwood from the FOP, Don Aaron, who is MNPD's public relations spokesperson, they're allowed on these crime scenes. They're allowed on these scenes, but the families of the people who've been shot, the families of the people who've been killed can't come up on these scenes. And then what happens is there's a news story that comes out. Don Aaron, you know, gets on Twitter or he does a special broadcast and he tells the public what to believe about what happened. And not one single time have I ever seen them say, we could have been wrong. Now, of course, if they do that, then they are subject to liability. But it would also be better to stay off the scene and to be quiet and to say we are going to allow for an independent investigation, and that's it. Until then, it is very evident that when police-involved shootings happen, MNPD continues to be biased. They continue to protect each other. They continue to gaslight the community as though there are not issues with policing and police brutality, even though there were that many shootings in that small amount of time. That is extremely problematic. And I see a difference.
Nope, we're going to take is it time for a break, Taylor? So we want to pick this up on the backside. Sorry to interrupt you.
No.
We're going to take a quick break again. Callers, hang on. We're in the middle of an important conversation. We'll continue after this.